Hey groovy dudes and dudettes, this is Thumper Be Thumpin', and this is going to be an owner review on the 2020 Kodiak 450 with EPS. I'm going to walk you through some of the features, show you as many action shots as I can really, and then we will discuss some of the likes and dislikes. So I'm going to try and give you an unbiased, honest review. Oh, here are the specifications, so you don't have to listen to me rattle all this off. There's a lot to look at. Pause it, check that out. Okay, so getting right into it. I'm going to show you the gauge cluster straight away. It's got an extremely intuitive way to cycle through all the features. So you got your gas, your auto, right, and your speed, but you can just cycle through your trip meter, your service hours, and you just reset everything by holding down this single button, which is what you use to cycle through. So you can see I've got 95 miles on this one so far. Let it rip, tater chip. So next I want to show you the headlight operation. So I got the key on right now, and I'll just throw on the high beams. I have ridden this machine at nighttime here through the forests on the East Coast, pretty dense stuff, and these headlights are perfectly adequate, especially once you get the top high beam going. Obviously this is with the high beams on, right? So all three lights are on, and with the low beams it's just the bottom two, but perfectly adequate light for my needs. This annoys the snot out of me. Your little low, high, neutral, reverse, and park indicator that you see in white there, I had to paint those white using a little paint pen because those are black, and it's kind of tough to see. I mean, it's not a difficult pattern to memorize, obviously, but you know, if you got a friend riding the machine at nighttime or something, it's impossible to see if low is forward or low is second from the top. So I don't know why they don't just make that white right there. Yeah, here's that engine braking. I'm in high gear, but it never ever free spools. Gotta love that. But yes, getting back to the plastics. So they use kind of a matte finish, like a textured matte finish, and then a smooth plastic finish. So any part where your body part hits, like here with the rear fender, where your thighs grab, and these fenders that might hit a bunch of brush and stuff, that's all like a textured matte finish. And I think that's to help you know, keep some of the scuff marks off of it. But then up here in the middle portion, that's all like shiny smooth. So same thing with back here, you got some shiny smooth stuff in the back, but on the edges it's that matte black, or that matte textured finish. Here's a couple other quick features for you real quick. It does have four-wheel drive, and you can shift on the fly. I usually just let off the throttle, and I try to not be moving too fast. It's a simple push button. I think you could just hear it activate right there, maybe. But yeah, when the button's out, it's in two-wheel. When the button's in, it's in four-wheel drive. And you do have a nice little 12-volt outlet on the side here. Shift on the fly, four-wheel. if I'm not mistaken, all of these Kodiak 450s come with a winch plate and wiring that is routed to the front, so you can very quickly, easily hook up a nice winch. These red skid plates are from Ricochet Off-Road, so I bought those in aluminum and then just painted them red myself, so that's not really a standard feature. I'll talk more about the skid plate at the end and how much I dislike it. Sorry for the wind. God, those tires. Those tires, they're just so squishy. I got them at the appropriate PSI too. Plenty of traction, just not very confidence inspiring in the corners. And the last little feature I'm going to talk about is the park gear. This is my first ATV with an actual park gear in the transmission. It's down there at the bottom. And if you just come to a stop and you shift it into park, it might take a slight amount of rocking to get it to fully engage. Show you some of the engine braking here in four-wheel drive low. Now this hill is not the steepest, but she's pretty good. I mean, I have to use the throttle. I'm going just too slow. So getting into some of the likes and the dislikes, I think the one of the things I first noticed riding this machine is the engine braking. Holy shnikes. You put this thing in low gear and four-wheel drive and you can just crawl down some of the steepest slopes. It is so confidence inspiring. And because Yamaha has that Ultramatic CVT with the constant belt tension, it never free spools. So my little Kawasaki Brute Force, it has respectable engine braking, but it will free spool sometimes, so you got to blip the throttle to get it to re-engage. But yeah, the engine braking on here is astounding. And but of course, you know, if you're in two-wheel drive low, it will only engine brake the drive wheels. So so your back wheels will possibly start to like skid and slide if you're going down a slippery slope. So the other thing I really like about this quad is the low and mid-range power. I did buy the 450 on purpose, not the 700. More on that a little bit later. But from what I've read, Yamaha engineered this thing to have pretty solid low and mid-range torque and power. I think it has about 27 horsepower, which is not that much. It is fuel injected, of course, but it's plenty to go trail riding and have some fun, right? You can rip around on this thing, no problem. And you can also kind of tow and haul with it. So the top speed is about 50 miles per hour, I think, but I haven't hit that yet. I think I've hit in the mid to high 40s, and it takes a little while to get there. It doesn't like it too much either, but perfect ATV for up to about 40 miles per hour. Clinking and clanking is just rocks and roots hitting these Ricochet skid plates. No problem. That was a steep hill. So another thing I like is the EPS, of course. So I paid the extra money for the EPS, and I would advise to absolutely do that. The EPS appears to be dialed in perfectly. I ride this thing all day, and I just don't get any of that arm and shoulder fatigue. Now it's not a very big quad, but it is about 650 pounds, so that can, you know, if you're riding these tight trails in between the trees, that can be a lot. But That EPS is dialed in very nicely. There's only 2 times where I've ever felt it kind of glitch as I was doing some slow off camber turning, and it felt like it like I hit a stick or a rock that wasn't there, and it just kind of snagged the handlebars for a little bit. But mostly a non-issue. That EPS has been really, really great. And so you saw in the specs the width. This thing is pretty darn wide at about like 46 or so inches, and man, I can't believe how well it handles out on the trail. I have, like, the last couple of quads I've owned had not have that long, wide of a track width, and it just feels so stable and comfortable out on those trails. So that's another feature I like. I think the previous Kodiak 450 had a 3-inch narrower track width. That's just enough power to have fun, but not quite enough to really get yourself into too much trouble. Tight off camber turn here. Plenty of grip in these floorboards. I'm not slipping at all. I can just dig in. One other like that I have, I gotta talk about these floorboards. The way I understand it, Yamaha widened them out quite a bit for this model year, the 2018s and newer. And man, you stretch your feet out wide going on some gnarly trails, and then you can just keep pushing them out further and further and further. These floorboards are so wide. And these little teeth here, they are all plastic, but I've found them to be pretty grippy. I haven't had any grip issues yet, and I've been around in a little bit of mud so far. So the floorboards, they got spot on. Okay, so the last one I have here is kind of a like and a dislike. Yamaha put these CST Wild Thang tires on. They're both 25 inches tall on 12-inch rims, and I think the backs are 10. The fronts are probably about, the fronts are 8s. So they have a good tread pattern. It has been excellent in all the conditions I've run it in, which has mostly been dirt trails, but I have had it in some mud. I've never been wanting for traction, so fully happy with that. However, these are 4-ply, and I understand that manufacturers put the lightest tire they can on these ATVs. Well, perhaps not the cheapest, but they want a light tire that most people will find useful and will give them the best power ratings. So these are 4-ply rated, and they are squishy and light. I actually can't wait to replace them because I want some 6-plies. They're plush and they're squishy, which I think adds to the overall ride comfort. However, it takes away from the stability. These things just flex like no other out on the trail. So I feel like with some stiffer tires, you can get quite a bit more stability out of this thing. The next like I want to talk about is this hitch receiver. So this little, the D-ring here I put in there, but it did come with this 2-inch hitch receiver. So that was a real big bonus, because I think that is right there is what really contributes to that 1,300 pound tow rating. So big bonus from Yamaha there. So another dislike I kind of have goes back to the speed thing. Yes, this thing has great low and mid-range power. It really does, but the top speed, they claim it's about 50 or so, but this thing's just not happy above about 45. So a little bit more speed would have been great, but I knew what I was getting myself into. The last dislike I have is the storage. every review you read or watch is going to complain about that. So there is no storage up front. I do love these racks though. Man, these textured finished racks, those are great. But there's no storage in back. There's no storage underneath. You do have this fantastically easy to remove seat. You just pop it up, slide it out. That's it. That is it. I've got a tow strap, some jumper cables, a tire puncture kit, and I think a couple extra like shackles in there. That is it. So the Kodiak 700 has a lot more storage. They got a nice huge compartment right up here up front. So, you know, that's the one area where they can really improve, I suppose. But other than that, that's the extent of my complaints with this. So in conclusion here, would I buy this machine again? Maybe. I purchased it brand new, and if I could do it over, I would probably not get it. Instead, I would spring for the Yamaha Kodiak 700. Spend that extra, what, 1,500 bucks and get all that additional power. That machine has very similar dimensions, so you're not really running into issues as far as ergonomics go, and you get that much more powerful and still equally as reliable 686cc engine. Tried and true. So I would spend the extra money, get the 700. I think it also comes with diff lock on some of the mid models, and of course their special edition model. For 2020, the Kodiak 450, you can only get diff lock with the special edition, which is again a new thing for 2020. So would I buy it again? No. Spend the extra money on the 700. Otherwise, if you can get a good deal on one of these things used, totally go for it. All right, thanks for watching, everybody.